Hello and good evening, friends. Welcome to Talk About It Tuesday. My name is Georgianne, and this is my friend.
My name is Eric.
And we're here to just spend a couple of minutes with you talking about the sermon from Sunday. And we've spent a lot of weeks, it feels like at this point, just talking about grief and sorrow and sadness and what it looks like to walk through that in our lives.
Yeah.
So we had a Facebook discussion earlier this week. I think it was on Saturday. And we were talking a lot about whether or not disappointment makes you shy away from being in community. Yeah. And I was really fascinated by that discussion. There was a lot of input there, and I thought maybe we would just talk a little bit more about that. And one of the central themes was that people will disappoint us without fail.
Yeah.
And I would say almost always those disappointments are related to unmet expectations.
Unvoiced expectations.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately, your suffering is mostly your fault in those spaces.
Well,
putting false expectations on people, putting unvoiced expectations.
Well, I mean, you're about to get married, and so I'm assuming you probably have talked a little bit about this in your premarital counseling about how important it is to communicate your expectations to your spouse. I am so guilty. Jack is probably watching this and nodding his head. I'm so guilty of not telling Jack what I expect or hope for, and then
sounds familiar.
being upset when the outcome is different than I hoped or imagined.
There has been plenty of things I haven't got done because I didn't know I needed to do them.
I mean,
so that sounds like a common experience for couples out there.
In 18 years, if I had $1 for all of the times that he said, "I cannot read your mind," and then I respond with, "After 18 years, you should know," but no. So, kind of the question I wanted to talk about was, how do we get to the place where we sometimes it's reasonable expectations. A lot of times it's unreasonable expectations. How do we get to the place where entitled is such kind of a harsh word, and that's really not how I mean it, but how do we get to the place where we feel entitled to put our expectations on other people?
Yeah, that's it. And it's so nuanced and complex, and every relationship's different. There should be a space where it's you should have high expectations on close friends. And when they aren't doing what friends should do, you should suffer, and you should be like, "Hey man, what the heck?" That's how it is. But a lot of the times, like we've said, it's unvoiced or just unrealistic. A lot of times it's just for ourselves, for other people, it's absolutely unrealistic expectations, and it kills us, and we do it to ourselves.
Yeah, and because I think, we have all been raised in different homes with different upbringings, with different parenting styles, and so much of that plays into how then we deal with relationships ourselves. And like you said, it's so nuanced. So then how do we get to the place where we can just enter into a relationship or friendship and just say I put none of my preconceived expectations on you? Is that even possible?
It's not possible, but I think with a healthy dose of grace, we can learn to be a lot more charitable and gracious in our relationships.
Yeah, that's good.
Because when I realize how bad of a friend I can be, it's hard to hold people to a higher expectation that I can't even fulfill myself.
Yeah, man, Matt Foss said a comment on Facebook, and I'll not quote it well, I'm sure, but he just said I know better because of the way that I failed people other times. I know better than to expect certain things back. And I thought, that hit me so hard when I read that. I was like, that is such a good perspective to have, because when we can treat other people in humility with like our own weaknesses in mind, I think it just helps us deal with people so much better.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say something else about that. I just lost my train of thought. Okay, so all right. So if we want to deal in friendship, I know what I was gonna say. When you do know that you disappoint somebody, it's like, I know I'm like a very forward person. I think you'll be surprised to hear me say that I hate conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I have to say something hard to somebody, like it legit gives me, a stomach ache. But like, this is the good work of the gospel, is restoration. And like saying to somebody like, Eric, that was like really disappointing or hurtful for me, and this is why.
I apologize.
Not just like, I'm done with you. We're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
Because what does that do?
No.
What good does that do?
Yeah. Yeah. And that just goes back to the grace thing. It's like, and again, it's like the relationships that should be the ones that are like truly hurting you should be worth that.
Yeah.
It should be worth like stepping in and being like, hey, that really hurt. Like that's not what true friends should be about. Like how could you treat me like that? Like, and having that conversation is just saying, well, it was nice knowing you.
Well, and I was worried that I'm gonna like upset somebody by saying that, but I mean, if the relationship is really something that's worth investing time in, then you have to take that risk, and keeping in mind that you're not really responsible for their response either.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so then if we're trying to get to a place where we don't put our expectations on people, I think that we need to be sure that we identify who is the only person that is able to fulfill all of those, I guess, desires and expectations perfectly. And that person is only Jesus. And I'm so guilty of like having Jack, for example, fill a role that Jesus is meant to fill for me. And not only is it unreasonable for him, but it puts, stress and anxiety and whatnot on him that it's not fair to him to depend on him in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're almost through this series. We've got one more chapter left, I think. And, man, it's been hard, but I think we've been having so many good conversations here and on Sundays and within our groups. And, do you have anything else to add? I do have one more thing. Actually, speaking of grief, on the topic of grief, this is going to be Eric's last talk about it Tuesday with us. I said I wasn't going to cry. All right. Eric has been with us for a couple of years as our resident, and he is getting married in a couple of weeks and waiting to see kind of what is next for him in the future. So if you see Eric, make sure you give him a hug, a high five, fist bump, elbow bump, whatever.
No.
And
I would not like any COVID elbow bumps, please.
No elbow bumps?
No, thank you. I don't want to ever experience.
Are you a hugger?
That.
I don't think
I'm okay with hugs, yes.
All right.
But
so
I never want a COVID elbow bump again in my life.
I know, it's the worst. So drop in the comments below some words of encouragement for Eric and his fiancée, soon-to-be wife Taylor, as they are waiting to see what God's next move is for them. And he'll probably be around here a little while longer, but regardless, we'll miss him nonetheless. He's spoken lots of words of truth and encouragement into so many of our lives, and we love him and are going to miss him dearly. Okay, don't cry. All right. Join us here next Tuesday. I don't know who's going to be sitting with me, probably Elisa. And Sundays, 9 o'clock and 10:30. And you can catch everything up if you missed anything on YouTube at Move. I can't stop crying. Move 603 on YouTube. All right. See you soon.
Have a good week.